There's a sentence at the beginning of Genesis 41 that always strikes me when I read it. Genesis 41:1 says this: "At the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream." The first time this really struck me in my life, it was when I was after I had graduated college and I was waiting to get a full-time job in ministry, and I felt like God was just leaving me waiting. I felt like he had forgotten about me and that he wasn't rewarding all the steps that I had taken in my life to get into ministry. I just wanted to do what I felt like was my calling in life. And I was just waiting. And I was doing my devotional for the day, and I read that sentence and I thought, 2 years passed in the course of this sentence, and in those 2 years, there's a guy named Joseph who his whole life was obedient to God and tried to do the right thing, and still he was stuck in prison because Pharaoh forgot about him. Pharaoh forgot that this guy who had interpreted dreams and who had done all these right things was down in the prison, and then after 2 years, Pharaoh had another dream that he couldn't remember, that he couldn't interpret. And so he had to go get Joseph, and Joseph's brought out of the dungeon, out of the prison cell, and he goes and he interprets the dream, and he is taken out of that prison. But after 2 years, and there I was a couple weeks or months into waiting on getting a full-time job maybe, and I was having a pity party for myself. And it highlighted this reality that my timeline is not God's timeline, but God is faithful. And I don't need to be the one in control. I need to be the one who trusts. And that's incredibly difficult for me. But in times of waiting, and in times when I get impatient, I think about Genesis 41:1 a lot. Because Joseph was just sitting down in a prison cell for 2 years. Not because he'd done anything wrong, but because he'd been forgotten about. God was going to see him through, but that had to be a tough 2 years. And so anytime I get really upset about having to wait a week or a month or a couple months for something, I just remember my timeline isn't God's timeline, but God is faithful and he will see me through. And so I hold on to that. I hold on to this reality that God is good, that he has good plans for me, and that he wants for me to continue in his will. And as I do that, he'll see me through. So if ever you start struggling with patience, if ever you start getting down and wondering about where is God in the midst of this, just remember, it's not our timeline, it's God's timeline, and God will see us through.